Akira.
He's got clout.
You see, for me, superheroes will always spark the imagination of people around the world. 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 Regardless of their background. Because I think that people are always looking for something that represents the ideal person or the ideal situation. You know, almost all of us have loved fairy tales when we were young. Just remember stories of giants and witches and wizards and monsters and things that were so colorful and bigger than life. Bigger than life. But then you get a little older and you're too old to read fairy tales, but you never outgrow your love of that type of story. That type of story. But you never outgrow your love of that type of story. And if you think about it, superhero stories today are really like fairy tales for grown-ups. The characters are bigger than life, just like in fairy tales. They have the same type of superpowers. Some can fly, some are extra strong, some can be invisible. It gives the viewer and the reader a chance to relive the excitement he or she had when they were young. When they were young. They're really reading fairy tales for grown-ups when they read or when they see superhero stories today. And that's why I love them so. And that's why I love them so. You get a little older and you're too old to read fairy tales, but you never outgrow your love of that type of story. That type of story. But you never outgrow your love of that type of story. That type of story. But you never outgrow your love of that type of story. Almost all of us have loved fairy tales when we were young. When we were young. Almost all of us have loved fairy tales when we were young. 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 When we were young.
Don't make waves till I make this change.
Life is a difficult process. Infinitely challenging, ultimately challenging, because it's bounded by death and insanity and all these terrible things that can befall people. You need to chart a course that makes the travel worthwhile. makes the travel worthwhile. To chart a course that makes the travel worthwhile. And that's not happiness. It's a much more profound idea than that. It's more like adventure, I would say. It's more like the great adventure of your life. It's more like adventure. It's more like the great adventure of your life. It's more like adventure. It's more like the great adventure of your life. That's a difficult thing. It's not a tropical cute cruise with a Mai Tai in hand, although maybe now and then it could be that. But I think human beings, we're very tough and combative creatures, and we're really built for a load. You really see this hunger arising in young men for exactly a call to that kind of adventure. It's like, get the hell up, guys, get to work. There's things to be done. It's like, get the hell up, guys, get to work. There's things to be done. There's dragons to confront and things to set right.
Whoever rolls should plan that.
I believe that's the truth, and I believe that it's more powerful than fear and than suffering. And that's saying a lot, because fear and suffering are real. It's more like adventure. It's more like the great adventure of your life. It's more like adventure. It's more like the great adventure of your life. It's more like adventure. It's more like the great adventure of your life. It's more like adventure. It's more like the great adventure of your life.
Akira The Don. Simply impeccable.
A lot of people say, I just want to they're kind of dabbling in the idea of improving themselves. And the real way to do it is you got to write down what the fuck you want and then go after it. You're in the part of the movie that starts and it shows you as a fucking loser. Just decide not to be a loser anymore.
Just decide not to be a loser anymore. Okay.
Live your life like there's a documentary crew following you around and you are analyzing your own behavior. Do what you would want to do so that your kids one day would look back at it and see that documentary and look on it with pride, like, wow, my dad was a bad motherfucker. My dad was a bad motherfucker. He really did what he had to do. Wow, my mom really got her shit together. Those are my favorite stories. I love a success story, but even more than a success story, I like a dude who fucks his life up and then gets it back together again story. Those are my favorite stories. Those are my favorite stories. Like, wow, my dad was a bad motherfucker. Those are my favorite stories. I love a success story, but even more than a success story, I like a dude who fucks his life up and then gets it back together again story. And the way to do that, you gotta write shit down. You gotta think that you are the hero in your own fucking movie, and then you gotta sit down and you gotta write shit down. Write down what you need to do.
Most people play the role of the victim in the movie.
Sure, yeah, this life is fucking me over, man. I could have had this and I should have had that. And why does this guy get that? And why does that guy get this? All things that are completely unrelated to you. All things that you find other people's success as a downfall in your own existence. Instead of being inspired and choosing to be positive, trying to achieve whatever the fuck you have written down, you just sit around and spiral. Those are my favorite stories. Those are my favorite stories. Like, wow, my dad was a bad motherfucker. Those are my favorite stories. I love a success story, but even more than a success story, I like a dude who fucks his life up and then gets it back together again story. There's nothing more miserable than sitting around someone who's fucking complaining all the time. It is one of the most annoying things ever. Everybody hates it. When someone just sits around and they complain about their life and they don't do jack shit about it. And you tiptoe around it, you don't know what to say. Well, she gets upset when you bring that up. I don't want to bring that up. And you want to go, you fucking crazy bitch, you know what's wrong with your life. Stop announcing it to everybody else and go out and fix that shit. Fix that shit. Fix that shit. Bitch, you know what's wrong with your life. Stop announcing it to everybody else and go out and fix that shit. My dad was a bad motherfucker. He really did what he had to do. Wow, my mom really got her shit together. Those are my favorite stories. I love a success story, but even more than a success story, I like a dude who fucks his life up and then gets it back together again story. Those are my favorite stories. Those are my favorite stories. Like, wow, my dad was a bad motherfucker. Those are my favorite stories. I love a success story, but even more than a success story, I like a dude who fucks his life up and then gets it back together again story.
Sometimes bad things, horrible things happen to good people. I don't know why, but life isn't fair. That's the reality. And disease, cancer, MS, horrible diseases and accidents, easy things. A good person in the wrong place, in the wrong time, can end up just a victim of fate and of reality. And it can be horrible and heart-wrenching. But when those bad things happen to people around you, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Going to do? When bad things happen, what are you going to do? Going to do? When bad things happen, what are you going to do? How are you going to lead? Are you going to get angry? Are you going to get frustrated? Are you going to lash out at people? Who are you going to lash out at anyways? Are you going to start going down the spiral of negativity? Are you going to let this horrible situation dictate the way you feel and the way you handle it? Are you going to fall over and fall down, fall apart? Or are you going to lead? Are you going to face this issue with courage and with resolution? What are you going to do? Going to do? The way that thing happens, what are you going to do? Going to do? The way that thing happens, what are you going to do? I say lead. Lead. Step up to the challenge. Be the one that other people look to. Absorb that impact, absorb that negativity. Draw fire. That's when a member of a platoon, for tactical reasons, steps into the open to draw enemy fire. Maybe to give another part of his team the chance to move or distract the enemy. But that's what I say. Draw fire. Bring that pain to me. I can handle it when maybe others can't. What are you because I know that attitude will spread. It will bolster those around me, and we will fight. And in fighting, we will win. And if not the battle, and if not the war, we will win because our spirit, it will never surrender. What are you going to do? Going to do? The way that thing happened. What are you going to do? Going to do? The way that thing happened. What are you going to do? And that is the ultimate victory. To hold your head high, and even in the face of inescapable defeat, to stand and to fight. That is to win.
This is a dream my 5-year-old nephew had. Now, you gotta get the context of this dream, right? Year after this dream, parents were divorced, so there were dragons in the house. He was about 4 at this time. He was running around the house with this little plastic knight helmet on and a sword. He was zipping around killing things with it. Doing this all the time. And even when he went to sleep at night, he'd put the sword by his pillow, knight helmet on his pillow. Now, every night, or every second night, or every third night for 6 months, he'd been waking up screaming. So I was there one night when he woke up screaming. Next morning I said, well, did you dream anything? And so he launched into this story. He said he was in this field and these little creatures, like dwarves, were coming up to him, and they didn't have any arms, they just had legs. They had big beaks and they were covered with hair and grease, and on top of their head was a cross. And there's lots and lots of these dwarves, and they were jumping on him with their beaks, biting him. We all looked at him and thought, well, it's no wonder you're waking up screaming, right? I mean, you know, that doesn't sound so good. And then he said, well, wait, there's more, right? Back in the distance, there's a dragon. You might as well go after the dragon. Go after the dragon. You might as well go after the dragon. Go after the dragon. And the dragon is puffing out fire and smoke. Fire and smoke. Fire, fire and smoke. And every time he puffs out fire and smoke, turns into these dwarves. Big problem, right? Just like the problem of the Hydra in Greek mythology. Cut off one head, 7 more appear. What are you going to do about these dwarfs? Kill one, big deal. 10 more are coming. What can you do about that? In a legal trial, that would have been an inadmissible question. That's called leading the witness. Because what I told him was, despite the horror of this situation, you maybe could do something about it. And he said, I'd take my sword, I'd get my dad. That's a good idea, right? There's the real dad, and then there's the tradition dad, right? You might as well have your father by your side if you're going to go into battle. I'd take my sword, I'd get my dad, I'd go to where the dragon was. I'd jump up on his head, I'd poke both of his eyes out with the sword, I'd go down his throat to the place where the fire comes out, I'd cut a piece of that box out, and I'd use it as a shield. Wow! Well, that's unbelievable. Unbelievable that he could do that. It's perfect, right? There's no sense going after the dwarves, because thousands of them. You might as well go after the dragon. Go after the dragon. You might as well go after the dragon. Go after the dragon. What happens if you go after the dragon?
You get a piece of it, piece of its center nature, a piece that can defend you against anything, including other dragons. What if this was the case, evolutionarily speaking or religiously speaking? What if we were adapted to the world? What if it's not the simple place of dead objects that we think it is? What if it's something a lot more alive, a lot more like a story? What if the story is something like this? You have absolutely everything you need, but you have to use all of it. If you run away from any of it, you don't get that piece of the dragon. If you miss even one piece, there's a chink in your armor. There's a place where you're vulnerable. If you make even one mistake, you lessen yourself. If you lessen yourself, you're going to run away more. Not only that, when someone wants to lean on you, they're not going to be able to lean on you because you'll just fall over. What if it was the case that we were adapted to the world, really adapted to it, so that if we made full use of all the talents we had, we'd be okay? What if it was the case that if we set out consciously to never run away from something we know we shouldn't run away from, that everything would be all right? Well, you can think whatever you want to think, but this is what I think. I think it's bloody amazing that that little kid's book had all that information in it. And so you might ask yourself, if that information isn't true, how the hell did it get there? That's it. You might as well go after the dragon. Go after the dragon. You might as well go after the dragon. Go after the dragon. You might as well go after the dragon. Go after the dragon. You might as well go after the dragon. Go after the dragon.
The next day I was back in Los Angeles. I was telling that same story to someone, and they said, hey man, I go to these meetings. And so then I went to some AA meetings, and for the first time in my life, I sat down and listened to people tell stories, which were my favorite thing to hear. My whole life I've been loving stories, man. I love your story. You know, whatever your story is, I love it, man. Because all my life when I was young, I just wanted a different story. I wanted a different story. I love your story. You know, whatever your story is, I love it, man. Because all my life, I just wanted a different story. I wanted a different story. I love your story. You know, whatever your story is, I love it, man. Because all my life, I just wanted a different story. I wanted a different story. Whether I had to tell it or try and live yours, whether I had to get emancipated and come live at your house or this house or that house, I just wanted a different story, man. I wanted to be in a family, and I wanted to feel loved, you know? You know, I just really, I think, and I didn't even know it. I didn't know how much I wanted to, how much I wanted to be loved, and I just didn't even know it. Once I got into these rooms, you had to sit there, you had to be quiet, you had to hear other people. And people started talking and telling their stories, and for the first time in my life, they were telling emotional, like, tales that were exciting and fucking dope and like deep and real. And I connected with that. I loved it. I love your story. You know, whatever your story is, I love it, man. Because all my life I wanted a different story. I wanted a different story. I love your story. You know, whatever your story is, I love it, man. Because all my life I wanted a different story. I wanted a different story. You know, I loved it in that. So I just kept going. I just kept going. Next thing you know, I had a couple nights in a row, or a couple weeks in a row, or months in a row where I was spending time with other people and I was meeting people, and suddenly Los Angeles became like this place that I'd always kind of hated and judged. It became a little bit, I still don't like that place. People are out of their fucking minds out there. A bunch of disconnected kooks judging most of the rest of America. But it also made me, it gave me a place to kind of, it just gave me friends, it gave me people. And because I knew those people had struggles, I knew that they'd felt some of the same ways that I felt inside, I couldn't judge those people, you know? Even though sometimes I wanted to. I love your story. You know, whatever your story is, I love it, man. Because all my life I wanted a different story. I wanted a different story. I love your story. You know, whatever your story is, I love it, man. Because all my life I wanted a different story. I wanted a different story.
And now for my next number, I'd like to return to the classics.
Jung had a patient come to him who felt alone, and she drew a picture of herself as caught in the rocks.
Well, I'll be damned.
From the waist down, she was bound in rocks, and this was on a windy shore, the wind blowing and her hair blowing, and all the gold, which is the sign of the vitality of life, was locked in the rocks. The next picture that he had her draw had followed something he had said to her. Suddenly, a lightning flash hit the rocks, and the gold came pouring out. And then she found reflected on rocks round about the gold. There was no more gold in the rocks. It was all available on the top. And in the conferences that follow, those patches of gold were identified. They were her friends. She wasn't alone, but she had locked herself in her own little room and life. But she had friends. But she had friends. Do you see what I'm meaning? This is killing the dragon. This is killing the dragon. And in doing that, you save the world. Kill the dragon, 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 save the world. Save the world. Save the world. Kill the dragon, save the world. Kill the dragon, save the world. Kill the dragon, save the world.
How do I slay that dragon in me? What's the journey I have to make, you have to make, each of us has to make? You talk about something called the soul's high adventure.
My general formula for my students is follow your bliss and find where it is, and don't be afraid to follow it. Follow your bliss and find where it is, and don't be afraid. The work that you're doing is the work that you chose to do because it, that's it. But if you think, oh gee, I couldn't do that, that's your dragon locking you in. Oh no, I couldn't be a writer. Oh no, I couldn't do what so-and-so is doing.
Unlike the classical heroes, we're not going on our journey to save the world, but to save ourselves.
And in doing that, you save the world. I mean, you do. The influence of a vital person vitalizes. There's no doubt about it. The world is a wasteland. People have the notion of saving the world by shifting it around and changing the rules and so forth. No, any world is a living world if it's alive. And the thing is to bring it to life. And the way to bring it to life is to find in your own case where your life is and be alive yourself, it seems to me. If you have someone who can help you, that's fine too. But ultimately, the last trick has to be done by you. This is killing the dragon. And in doing that, you save the world. Kill the dragon, 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 save the world. Save the world. Save the world. Kill the dragon, 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 save the world.
disasters you've had, personal failures, relationship failures, what would the hero of your life's movie do right now? Do that. Do those things. Do that. Do those things. Do that. Do those things. We define ourselves far too often by our past failures. We look at our past and we say, well, that's me. That's not you. You are this person right now. You're the person who's learned from those failures, and you can choose to be the hero of your own movie right now. Write down your goals. Write down things you want to improve. Write down things you won't tolerate from yourself. Write down things that you've done in the past that you never want to see yourself do again. And go forth from here as the hero of your own movie. As the hero of your own movie. You have to be the hero of your own story. You have to be the hero of your own story. You have to be the hero of your own story. You have to be the hero of your own story. Build momentum. Build confidence and momentum with each good decision that you make from here on out. You can do it. You can do it. Anyone can do it. Anyone can do it.
hero. Be the hero. Be the hero of your own movement. You have to be the hero of your own story. You have to be the hero of your own story. You have to be the hero of your own story. You have to be the hero of your own story. And you can do that. Story. You have to be the hero of your own story. And you can do that. And you can do that.
I believe all of us humans have an equation like, pi is 3.14. That's how you solve that equation. Every human being has a different equation. And there's not like some cookie cutter book of, hey, read this book and you'll be fixed. No, you gotta figure out your own personal equation. And once you figure out that equation, you now become a mathematical fucking genius. You gotta figure out your own personal equation. And once you figure out that equation, you now become a mathematical fucking genius. And that's what this does. It makes you a fucking genius about who the fuck you are. And then from there, once you realize 3.14 is pi, you can solve any fucking equation in the world. That's what it's about.
I do believe that it really matters that every single person gets their act together. We're networked together. We think of ourselves as 7 billion isolated units and despair that none of us have any significance or purpose. Not the case. We're each the center and a vast network. We're each responsible for determining the direction of the cosmos. We're each the center and a vast network. We're each responsible for determining the direction of the cosmos, as far as I can tell. And it isn't obvious to see how we can each be charged with that responsibility, but it still seems to me that it's the case. We're also very annoyed and irritated with one another if we don't treat each other as if that was the truth. So that's adventure. You think, well, here's something you could do with your life. Devote it to making everything you possibly can better, and see what happens. Tell the truth. Aim high. Tell the truth. Aim high, and see where you can get with that. Tell the truth. Aim high. Tell the truth. Aim high. It's like there's an adventure for you. There's an adventure for you. We're each the center and a vast network. We're each responsible for determining the direction of the cosmos. We're each the center and a vast network. We're each responsible for determining the direction of the cosmos. Well, that's my big adventure. Well, that's my big adventure. Well, that's my big adventure. Well, that's my big adventure.
And man, it has been a journey. The drugs and alcohol has been whatever. I don't know if I'll always be sober, I have no idea. But the thing that keeps me involved is I get to learn so much about myself, about loving others, about acceptance. It's introduced me to other issues that I have that, maybe drugs and alcohol aren't even my issue. It's just introduced me into a world of introspection. Like for the first time I can take a look at myself. And I got a ton of faults, I'm not. But I know that if I stay on this path that things can get better. I believe that, because there's proof for me. My career has gotten better. I've met people that have loved me. I've been in and out of a relationship with somebody that loved me. For one of the first times in my life that I really felt that. Not that other people hadn't loved me in the past, but this was the first time I could feel it. And it's just because something had changed inside of me, where I didn't need to just have all these walls up or whatever to survive anymore. I think my higher power wants to tell me, look, man, you're gonna be okay. You can take a break. Anyway, I don't know if I'll always be a part of this program or not. But, for the first time in my life, I can tell you a true story. Like this story, that's a true story. For the first time in my life, I can tell you a true story. Like this story, that's a true story. All the years of having a line, be ashamed of who I was or what I was or anything like that. It's still okay to tell stories. It's okay to create and want to bring people together and be a storyteller and think about things, and that's all okay. But for the first time in my life, I have a little bit of a story of my own. And there are moments, not always, but there's moments where I don't feel as ashamed of myself as I did for so long, man. I was so ashamed of myself for nothing. Really for nothing. Just because at a young age, nobody had told me not to be ashamed of myself. Nobody had told me, hey man, you're okay. Nobody had told me, hey man, you are okay. You're not a bad person. You're not a bad person. Because for so much of my life, I wanted to know bad about myself. And now I go into these rooms and I hear other people's stories, and I feel a certain way, and there's proof right there. Inside of me, living inside of my body. Through feeling and through love. And that's dope, man. Shit is fucking dope. For the first time in my life, I can tell you a true story. Like this story, like that's a true story. You know, for the first time in my life, I can tell you a true story. Like this story, like that's a true story.
you were given the VFW award recently, and you were listening to people that had impacted you, and you got to your mom, you couldn't even speak.
Yeah. It almost chokes me up now. So I get the VFW award for the Americanism Award for military service and giving back. I'm as human can be. That's why what you see is what you get. At that moment when I was giving my speech, I thanked my uncle for being there, and I got to my mom, it wasn't just about her. It was, I know what she went through, I know what I went through, and we got knocked down so much. I had a moment in front of all these great American heroes where I had a chance, it was like so fast, it went through me like lightning, of I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm getting an award like this. That kid who was in the fetal position the majority of his life, and so much the fact that my body and my hip flexors are tight to this day, that even though I was standing erect, my mind was in the fetal position. And when I looked out amongst all those people, it was a sense of pride that I can't even explain. It's the moments of 3 hell weeks. It's the moments of in that room by myself studying for hours and hours, and I was trying to catch up with all the kids who were above me. It's just those moments, like the real raw moments of life that was like, boom, hit me, and we're gone. But I was like, I did that, I overcame that shit. You know, it's like, this is power behind all that shit. And that's the feeling I was looking for in my life. I found it. It wasn't money, it wasn't fame, it wasn't awards. It was that feeling I have right now. The feeling of, I'm about to break down, but it's not of like, oh my God, I'm upset. It's like I worked myself so hard that I turned a person this fucked up into this motherfucker right here. Not off of reading a fucking book off a theorist. Off of going to work on myself and saying, I don't know how to do this, but I know that to get over there to that fucking side, I gotta grind myself into a fucking fine powder. And I did it. I did it off of sure will.